How is everybody doing? Strength Chat episode 124, and today I have got a very special guest for you. Today I'm joined by a strength coach competing in powerlifting and strongman, as well as a practicing registered nurse. Today I am joined by Paige Mills. How are you doing?
Hey, what's up? Thanks for having me.
No worries at all. Thanks a lot for jumping on. How are you? What have you been up to? What's been happening in your world?
Yeah, I'm not bad. Like everyone, I've had a huge adjustment to the COVID situation. I own a small boutique strength gym. And so face-to-face personal training was a bit of what I did for a living, and that's obviously no more. So I've been trying to nurse more. I've adapted. I've been manufacturing gym equipment. So I've just spent all day, I've still got paint all over my hands. I've spent all day doing that in a shed, which I did not think I would be doing, a month or two ago. But other than that, I'm all right. I'm hanging in there, I guess, like everyone else is.
Oh, nice. And how's your own training going? Because I know obviously the stories and content you've been putting out there, you've still been getting a little bit of training in. How's your training going?
It's fine. I feel like I'm trying to get stronger, and instead I'm probably maintaining my strength. I find it really demotivating training at home alone. I have no confidence benching without a spot or a hand out of squat stands, So it's fine, but I'm really lucky. I've got, obviously I own a gym, so I had the equipment I could take home. So I'm still squatting, benching and deadlifting and doing some dumbbell work. So getting it done, but it's definitely more of a chore than usual. I miss putting on half decent gym clothes and going to see my friends at the gym,
I think that's, because I've spoken to a couple of my clients, because actually this week was supposed to be, myself included, was going to be the regional qualifiers to qualify for the British Championships for powerlifting, and then it was going to be a couple of people's first competitions. So to go from that to then not having any, because I only live in like a small apartment, so when I went down to the gym to pick up some equipment, I can't fit a squat rack in my living room, so I took a load of kettlebells. And then it was sort of a panic grab. I just grabbed a strongman log and put that in the back of my car and thought, right, I'm gonna have to have that. But I think when clients are listening, they think that the coaches will be, they're going to be motivated to train all the time. But it can be quite hard to train in your own home sometimes.
Yeah, you know what I've been doing? You might laugh. I've been I think that sitting on my phone in silence in between sets is what's slowing me down, demotivating me. I just can't put the phone down to get up and start training again. So I've been doing random bits of housework in between my sets. I'll run inside and fold a set of sheets and then go back out and do my next set. And then I'll come in and make the bed and then go out and do another set. And it's actually been keeping me moving, keeping me on my feet, but I'm still kind of resting. So whatever works, right?
That's a good little tactic to use. That'll be a good tactic to get people's step counts up. I'll be like, right, in between sets, you've got to go back in. And what's it like with the clients that you're working with and the membership at your gym? How are they managing with training, and have you had to change things around a little bit from a coach's point of view, or how's all that?
So most of what I was doing was online anyway, lots of online coaching. So I'm really lucky in that I've retained a lot of those clients. Basically, first I started lending out my gym equipment for free to online clients, because keeping them as an online client is more important than making more money off the rental. It's a long-term business decision to retain them. But also they're not getting as much for their money now. Before, they're sending me their squat, bench and deadlift work for me to critique. And now, I don't really need to see them do kettlebell swings and, kettlebell overhead presses and stuff. So that was the first thing I did, was lent out all my equipment to the local people, which is only a small portion of my online coaching. But it actually, you would think the online coaching is less work for me now, because I don't have to watch their squat, bench, deadlift videos. But instead, they've all ordered equipment. They've all got, some of them have a few things. Some of them have lots of things. I can't possibly keep track of what everyone has. And so someone will be like, oh, hey, I have a barbell now. So now I have to rewrite their whole program to include a barbell. I want to maximize what they can do with their equipment. If they've got 6 pieces of equipment, I don't want to give them a program with 3 pieces in it. So I'm constantly rewriting programs. The first week I had to rewrite everyone's. So I basically did 3 months of programming in a week. I was just lucky because I just gotten back from overseas. And I was in mandatory, proper quarantine, can't leave the house to go to the supermarket even, for 2 weeks. And that was when the gyms closed. So I was lucky that I was home for 2 weeks to do that.
Yeah, it is definitely a challenge, because I know a couple of people, when it first, we lent out a lot of equipment from the gym, and then people just ordered some equipment in. But as it's sort of gone on, and I feel like sometimes people just get a little bit bored using the same equipment and think, oh, well, do you know what? I'd love a squat rack, or I'd love a barbell.
Yeah.
But the actual price of gym equipment, I've sometimes just said, look, this isn't going to be forever, so it is a little bit of an investment buying some gym equipment. So don't waste all your money on that. We can still work around it a little bit. And one of the best things that I've seen is that a couple of people have been putting two bins together and making them into a squat rack, which I think is he's pretty cool, really.
Very clever.
So for everyone listening who might not know your background, how you got involved in coaching and powerlifting and strongman, as well as becoming a registered nurse, do you just want to give a little bit of a background to yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I went straight from high school to uni, and I studied nursing for it's the 3-year degree that took me 4 years. And basically prior to that, I'd always had businesses that were very physical. Like even all through high school, I had like property maintenance businesses and stuff. And I was always doing like intense physical labor. And then I went to uni/nursing, and yeah, you're on your feet when you're nursing, but you're not like exerting a lot of energy. You're not lifting heavy things and whatever. So I guess I was just restless. I had a lot of energy to burn, and I kind of got home at night and was like twiddling my thumbs and couldn't go to bed. So I thought, I'll start going to the gym. And so I just started lifting weights to basically burn off some energy. And it just kind of took off, and I didn't know that what I was doing was a very traditionally male style of training, and that it was essentially bodybuilding. But I was hooked straight away. Like as soon as I started, I wanted to be huge. Like I just wanted to be the biggest, scariest looking chick that ever there was. So, and then in terms of like switching over to powerlifting, I think like it is for a lot of people, it was kind of an accident. Like I don't think many people start in powerlifting. I think lots of people start going to the gym because they want to look good, and then they get accidentally strong and they're like, oh, maybe I should pursue powerlifting. And that's exactly what happened for me. So I remembered I squatted 100 kilos for the first time at probably like 65 kilos body weight. And I just kind of thought everyone could do that because I wasn't training around any girls to compare myself to. And then one of my friends whose partner is a powerlifting coach, she was like, dude, that's pretty good. Like if you pursued powerlifting, like you could do well, So yeah, I got into it that way. But in terms of actually starting powerlifting, her and the guys that got me, that introduced me to the word powerlifting for the first time, I was like, show me like an Instagram of a girl who, like, show me what it looks like. Show me what the sport looks like in action. I want to see a girl lifting. Show me. And so these guys who are like refs and spotters and loaders for GPC powerlifting over here, they were showing me like this girl that they train with. Her name's Becky Glitch. And I was like, wow, like she's beautiful and she's so strong. This is insane. So I literally just messaged her, and where she trains is 2 hours from here. And I was like, hey, can I come and train with you? I want to see what it's like. And she was like, okay. And now we're still friends. And now I actually coach her. And I was supposed to coach her into Pro Raw this year, which got cancelled. So
yeah, it's actually I had a podcast with Will put me wrong teeth in this morning. With Will Crozier, and that was just before Pro Raw, and obviously going into that there was it was going to be really, really competitive, and then to find out that it was cancelled, I was a little bit like, right, when's everyone going to be able to lift together? Because at that point, obviously everyone was peaking towards that, which would have been great. So which one, how are you managing both then? Do you, in terms of like competing, do you keep a little bit of powerlifting in and a little bit of strongman in, or what's your programming look like?
To be honest, the strongman stuff, I don't take as seriously as I should in terms of like, I don't normally program in strongman. I only had started to recently when COVID happened, and now I don't have access to equipment. But basically in the past, I've done powerlifting training and been really serious about powerlifting. And then I just sign up for a random strongman comp. And sometimes I'd never tried any of the events by the time I got there. Like there'd be like a log, a type of deadlift of some sort. And then it'd be like chain yoke that I've never done, or, or like a carry that I've never done. And I just go there and wing it on the day. So I haven't like taken it very seriously. But I really enjoy the training, and it's kind of the only way to get me to do any kind of conditioning. Like I don't want to move.
Yeah, I can agree with that, because I know there's the standing joke that every time after a competition, I say, right, I'm going to do something a little bit different to powerlifting. And usually I want to do a little bit of strongman, but usually I might do a little bit of log, maybe an Atlas stone, and then I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go back to powerlifting now. It's fun, but I much prefer squatting, benching, and deadlifting. Rather than, but it is a good way of adding in a little bit of extra conditioning for strongman. And obviously, you said there when you first got involved in strength sports, obviously wanted to put some size on, get a little bit bigger. And when it sometimes comes to women in strength training, a lot of programs are sometimes focused around, right, so this is going to be your glute program, or this is the focus on that. What are your thoughts on that? And is it sort of the audience, or these programs are sort of pushed more towards women, rather than thinking, well, no, actually, let's get really strong. Let's start putting on some muscle. What are your thoughts on that?
Look, here's the thing. I'd like to preface by saying, I don't think there's any wrong thing to want out of your training. So, if you're a dude who wants to just build your delts and that's all you care about, or you're a chick that just wants to build your glutes, I'm not superior to you because I do powerlifting. So, I don't frown upon it or anything, but I think that, I'm sure you'll agree with me that there's just something a little bit more garage gym, grungy, rough around the edges about strength sports. I mean, it's traditionally done in a concrete shed. And I just think that if you're attracted to powerlifting and strongman, you're probably not a super, super feminine girl. Your personality in general, I think that it attracts tomboys is basically what I'm trying to say. And I think I'm the perfect example of that. Every hobby I've ever had has been very much male dominated. So I have had a couple of chicks that are I want to squat, bench, deadlift. I want to be really strong. But I really want to build my glutes. I just want them to look bigger and better or whatever. And so I've done that. So the second squat day is adductor machines and, things that I wouldn't program and that's fine. They can do both. But traditionally, girls come to me and they're I want to build my bench. And I'm cool, that's badass, sometimes it's my bench. Bench is probably my best lift, and sometimes it's my bench in particular that's drawn them into the online coaching anyway,
Oh, cool.
I program it, absolutely. If anyone wants to do that. I wrote a full CrossFit program the other day, and I just told my client, I'm I have no experience in writing WODs and stuff. I'm going to be pinching some off the internet and adapting them. But yeah, if you want me to do it, I can do it, So I'm always honest. Even the first time I did strongman programs, I was hey, I'm going to need my coach to help me with this. I haven't written a strongman program before. And I was just honest. It's the same with the glute stuff. I'm yeah, I'm not, if booty building is your number one priority, then you probably wouldn't have come to me anyway. They're probably more interested in the powerlifting side.
I think it comes down to as a coach just having that honesty, and it's interesting that you mentioned there that if clients are coming to you and look, I want to get stronger. Do you think that even if it was a case of, look, we're going to do a powerlifting program, a byproduct of building bigger glutes and getting in better shape, do you think that's actually can be a byproduct of just getting involved in strength sports?
Yeah, definitely. But I think too that usually girls actually enjoy the exercise as well, which at most of my clients are at the intermediate level. There's a few beginners and there's a few advanced, but most are at intermediate. And I think when you're at that stage, that's still the most important thing, is enjoying training. I don't want to program them more than one or two things per session that they really hate,
An interesting thing that you mentioned there as well, because I had to smile to myself when you mentioned, most women might come to you for a bench press. Now, for the powerlifting club that I run and the online clients that I've got, some of the women that might not have benched before, all of a sudden that becomes one of their favorite lifts. Yeah. One of my clients actually, she's got a garage gym, and when everything was sort of getting sorted with the lockdown and that sort of stuff, she actually didn't have a bench. And then I remember getting a text saying, I've got a bench, I can start bench pressing now. And I've never ever seen anyone so excited about it. When it comes to, because there is a thought that, sometimes women will say, look, I don't want to get too bulky or have bigger arms and that sort of stuff. What's your sort of take on putting the message across that, look, you're not going to end up, unless we go down that route of a program, that you're not going to put on massive amounts of size, and that you can still bench press and still get stronger, and that it's not just an exercise reserved for, you know, the men's side of powerlifting, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think that the first thing I emphasize to people is that, like, if you buy like a Huffy push bike, you don't accidentally win the Tour de France one day. Like, there are steps in between there where you can like make it stop, you know. But yes, we know that hypertrophy is reversible, and it takes a long freaking time. And you can look in the mirror every day, and it might be a year before you see any difference in the way that you look or whatever. Like, unfortunately, changing your physique takes a really long time. So yeah, I just tell people that, like, because I think it's valid to not want to get too muscular. Like, I don't want to get too fat. Does that make me shallow? Or, you know, like, so I think it's completely valid to not want to be too muscular, whether you're a girl or a male. But yeah, I just like tell people, look, it happens really slowly, and a lot of the changes, you can get stronger without putting on a heap of size, because a lot of the changes are neuromuscular. So yeah, and I would just program accordingly. You know, I wouldn't put like sets of 20 chest flyers in for a girl who's worried about having a bulky chest, or, you know.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's everyone thinks that as soon as they're gonna, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a couple of people that I've trained with that, you know, sometimes all they have to do is look at a dumbbell and they'll end up putting some size on. But for the majority of people, it is going to be a longer term process. Just one thing that you mentioned at the start, obviously going into more of a male dominant environment. A lot of I know for me, especially when sort of new people or, you know, new women rock up to the powerlifting club or coming to the first session, they're always a little bit maybe unsure about it. What were your thoughts on that? Did you just dive straight in, and do you have any, you know, piece of advice for people listening?
I think that, like, look, I still refer to it as male dominated, in that, like, it attracts males, and I think that statistically it is still male dominated, but I don't, like, if you go to a meet, it's a close, it's almost as even with how many girls there are and how many guys there are, right? And it's increasingly so as well. And I think that's actually more reason to get into the sport, because powerlifting is a lot about who rocks up on the day, right? Like, I've won a meet by 100 kilos, and it was one of my first meets. It was my first sanctioned meet. Does that mean I'm the strongest girl in Australia? No, it fucking doesn't. It means only 2 other people's rocked up, you know? So the fact that there's less women in it is actually appealing to you. But I think that actually women are quite respected in the sport, because it's not a sexualized sport, really. Like, there's not as much skin showing as there are in bodybuilding gyms, and we're not as obsessed with glutes, and we're not posing in high heels that are the same brand as stripper heels. And, you know, so I think it's like quite desexualized. And I also think that you're getting credit for how hard you work instead of for how you look. So I think that there's less gawking and less, you know, like a lot of the girls that I train with, they wear their dad's t-shirts while they're training, and guys are like, you know, like, you don't have to be a 10 out of 10 hottie for people to be like, wow, like, what you're doing is amazing. Like, you know, you're the hardest worker in here.
That's a really good point, and actually I've never really thought of it like that, because, like you say, when you rock up to a meet, it's just like, right, let's get through your warm up, let's get yourself set, and it's all about lifting the weight, just on a maybe a little bit of a sideline, or just building on that. I know, and this is completely just what's come to my head right now. A lot of the women who will get involved in powerlifting and are beginners, getting more towards the intermediates, maybe looking at competitions. The biggest issue I found, because, you know, none of the women who I train want to end up looking like me. Yes, they want to be strong, but, you know, I'm not they're not going to be motivated to think, yeah, you know, I want to look like Steve. But a lot of it is, right, well, let's get a singlet, let's get some other pieces of equipment that you can do for the competition. And they're always a little bit sort of like nervous about it, and think, oh, well, you know, I don't want to wear a singlet, you know, it's too tight. But actually, you know, everyone else there is wearing a singlet, and actually no one there is really like you say, ogling at people wearing singlets, because everyone's more bothered about what weight you're lifting. Have you had any, you know, dealings with that, or if anyone's ever mentioned that, oh, I'm not too sure about wearing a singlet or anything?
Dude, I know people who have just flat out told me the reason they haven't done a meet is because they don't want to put the singlet on.
Right.
You know, like, women who might have had children or whatever and now aren't like comfortable in their bodies, you know, they're kind of like, oh, I'll wait until I've like lost a bit more weight before I do a meet or whatever. But isn't it interesting, because how many times have you gone to a meet and you're driving home with whoever you're with and you talk about that third deadlift grind that some chick did, like, man, that chick's deadlift went for like a full minute. And then how many times have you driven home and said, how hot did that chick look in her soft suit? Or did you see that girl's gut hanging out of her soft suit? Like, never. Like, no one talks about how you look. People talk about like how hard you worked, or like you went 9 for 9, or, you know, that you hit PRs. Like, that's what people talk about.
I'm literally gonna take that snippet and I'm gonna play it in the gym when the gym's open again, because I think that's, you know, for the nerves that people get, it is literally, you know, when people, I always want my lifters to lift more, and it's always a talk about, yeah, that looked really strong, and it's 100%. That's why, you know, I'll point people in the direction of looking at lifters, whether it be on Instagram or, you know, whether powerlifting competitions are going to be streamed, and then just look, and I said, just, you know, focus on the lifts. That's the whole point of it. That you know, in terms of the strength sports, I think it's a really good way to build confidence, and then build confidence in how you're looking and how you're feeling, rather than, you know, trying to focus on, because I think sometimes people can go too much down the route of, oh, well, I want to make sure that my arm's looking better or anything like that. But actually, I think it can be that can work both ways with the strength sports in building confidence. So just after, you know, chatted a lot about the getting involved in strength sports, how have you managed that, or in terms from a coach's point of view, managed that with obviously nursing and the other side of it? So we had a little bit of chat before the podcast started, that I train quite a lot of doctors and, you know, people in the health profession, and then sometimes something that I might say, they think, oh, well, actually, I didn't think about it that way from their point of view. How have you found sort of working in both camps, if you like?
Yeah. I feel like sometimes I do feel like one can affect the other a little. So in terms of, the biggest question I get is about time management. And basically do you guys use the word casual for a type of employment? Like you're casually employed? Yeah, cool. So basically I'm not promised any hours by the hospital, and I don't have to promise them any hours. So pre-COVID, I'd been doing like Monday, Wednesday, Friday PTs, kind of like a split day, like morning and afternoon. And I do my online check-ins in between those. And then Tuesday, Thursday, I was nursing, and then sometimes on a weekend, but usually wouldn't have time. But that's what I was doing. And it worked really well for me. But at this stage, like in a way, nursing's kind of a hobby until COVID happened, and now it's kind of all I've got. But nursing's been kind of a hobby for me ever since I finished uni, really. So I'm happy to do no shifts. I'm happy to do lots of shifts at this point. I'm kind of nursing because it's intellectually stimulating for me to go to a job where I'm the dumbest person in the room. And also, like, to keep up my practice, like, you de-skill so quickly if you're not like constantly practicing nursing. Like, it's such a broad thing, there's so much to know, you can't possibly know it all. But yeah, sometimes I'll have my clients complaining about how like they have an injury or something, and so now they can't squat 200 kilos. And I'm like, dude, like, I'm thinking, and I say it to them nicely, but I'm like, dude, there are kids out there your age who can't walk. You know, and you're worried that you can't squat 200 kilos. Like, I'll help you, and like, I have empathy for you, and I've cried over injuries plenty, you know. But like, let's look at the big picture here. Like, you can still go to work, you can still, you know, you can still walk your dog, you can still make love to your partner, you can still come to the gym and train. Like, there are people who can't do that.
Because that's quite interesting, because, you know, I've had clients that have had injuries. I've had injuries myself, and then what I find quite interesting is, obviously, working as a nurse as well. How do you think that has helped you as a coach, and then maybe, you know, changed your style as a coach as well?
Yeah, look, I think it helped. It helps a little bit with like the anatomy of training and stuff like that, but more so, I think, just helping people like realize what's important. Like, I don't know anyone really personally that's, I only know one or two people that have been like really adversely affected by their health. I've been really lucky. My family's been really lucky. And I think some people will never encounter someone personally that they know whose life's been turned upside down. And in nursing, we see it all the time. I worked on the stroke ward for some time. And so it's just a huge eye opener. And I think that helps. It sounds almost counterintuitive that I'm like selling this product of like, come and do powerlifting, it's amazing. But then also telling people like, it's not everything. Like powerlifting isn't everything. And if you can't powerlift, you're not a failure. Like it's one tiny part of the world that we're in, you know? And if you're only the 6th best powerlifter in the country or whatever, like that's okay. You're a nice person and you're smart.
I think that's always a good message to put across, because I had a chat with a couple of the coaches where I live. So I live in Leeds in the north of UK, and we were chatting about sort of, you know, when lockdown started, and all of a sudden, you know, powerlifting coaches or people that were involved in powerlifting, there was just radio silence on social media. They had nothing to post. Whereas actually, you know, it kind of approached itself as a challenge to me, because it's like, right, actually, so I can't squat, bench, or deadlift. A lot of my clients who are going to be competing in powerlifting can't do that. So how can I keep them engaged in training and think outside the box a little bit? And it's like, you know, I've said to a couple of people, every time I build up to a competition and I start benching more, my right sort of shoulder and pec always get really, really tight. And it's one of those things where, you know, I'll go see a physio, have a little bit of a massage, and then I'm good to go. And then afterwards, have a bit of a massage, then I'm good to go. And it's one of those things that when I say it now, in my head, I'm thinking, why have I never tried and fixed that? Why have I never tried and stayed on top of that? Whereas now, actually, you know, it's a really good time to think, right, well, I'm going to have a look at fixing, well, not fixing, but making sure that my shoulder's a little bit better, making sure that my mobility is a little bit better, working on my core strength, you know, and thinking of other ways that you can get stronger. And I think that's a really good message to put across, that, you know, powerlifting is still going to be there. When all of this is cleared up, there's still going to be more competitions. It's not, you know, just right now, everything's just being put on pause a little bit. You said there as well, obviously, one of my favourite sayings is, if you're the smartest person in the room, go into a different room. And having the opportunity to, obviously, you know, potentially, not now, because obviously when you mentioned that you were working as a nurse now, there might not be chance to pick the brains of other doctors with everything that's going on. But have you been able to, you know, prior to obviously COVID-19 and everything, do you have the chance to pick the brains of doctors if you've got any questions, or the other nurses that you're working with, to help you out in increasing your knowledge base?
I don't think that they have a lot to offer in, like, I feel like if I was working in nutrition, sure, maybe like there's more of a carryover from the medical field, but maybe just a little bit around injuries. But even then, I think a physio is the best person to ask about injuries. But it was really interesting because it was actually a while ago, it was like a year ago, but I'll never forget. I was sitting on a ward, I was working on a ward this day, and I was sitting next to a doctor, and she was a neurologist, and I just consider her like the smartest person in the world, you know? And she was eating a salad, and someone said, "Oh, that looks nice." And she goes, "Yeah, I'm trying to," she's like, "Yeah, I'm on a diet. I'm trying to lose weight. So I'm cutting out carbs." And I just remember thinking, like, I wonder if she knows about like a calorie deficit, and that, like, you know, I wonder if she knows that like the macros aren't as important as the calories. And then listening to her talk, like eavesdropping on her, I don't think she does. I think she's eating more calories than she was before, but she's eating cleaner, you know? And so you can be really good at you can't know everything, and you can be amazing in your area. Well, actually, nutrition's a good example. I've just hired someone to run the nutrition side of my business. And a few people said to me, like, from a business perspective, like, why don't you just do it? Like, that would be so much more financially beneficial. And I was like, one, I got no idea about it. Two, yeah, I've got time to learn about it now. But if you're not passionate about something, then you're never going to be fantastic at it. You're just not. And I already have a bit of a problem with the fact that, like, I run so many businesses and I'm nursing, and I'm just doing so much that, like, I already can't be amazing at any of those things, because you just can't do it all, you know? And also I don't really practice what I preach well enough in nutrition to be comfortable to coach it to other people.
Yeah, do you know what? That's a really good point, because I have a couple of coaches that put a bigger emphasis on the nutrition side of things than Potentially what I do. I try and keep the nutrition side of things, pretty basic. And then if I feel as though they need a specific nutrition program, I'm quite happy to say, look, go and see someone that's going to be someone in their specialist area. And it's interesting that you say that, sometimes when people come to you as a coach, I feel as though sometimes people think you're going to be a specialist in nutrition, in training, in physio and everything like that. And I always use the example is my mum used to work in a bakery when I was growing up. So I'm really bad for, cookies and cakes. I try to stay away from them as much as you can, but, sometimes those little habits is like, right, okay, we're gonna start off with this nutrition plan. But if someone does have, a piece of cake or something like that, I'm not gonna say, that's it, that's the nutrition out the window, it's all gone. But yeah, 100%, because I think it adds a little bit more value as well if you can refer to someone who's got a little bit more of a background in nutrition or physio or whatever it is. Do you find that, when you are nursing, that people ask you quite a lot of questions about training and nutrition?
Yeah, the staff a lot. The staff a lot. Yeah, and I'm not sure. I can't pinpoint exactly what the cultural difference is, but it seems to me I work with a lot of Filipino and Indian nurses, and it seems to me that their knowledge of like basic nutrition and training is exceptionally limited. And sometimes I feel bad, like they'll ask me a question and I'm like, the only way for me to answer that is to teach you everything there is to know about energy balance. And I can't do that here, and I'm glad that now I offer the nutrition service, because like, I don't like when someone asks you for help with something and you just say, I can't help you. Like, I don't have time, or like, I don't like that. So I'm glad that I've done it before. I've sat someone down in my spare time, a face-to-face PT client who I thought was really struggling with like binge eating and stuff. And I taught her how to use my fitness pal, and I taught her how to like count calories and stuff. But you can't do that for every single person that you meet. Like, I don't have time to do that. I would love to.
Yeah. Do you find it, because obviously as a coach you'll have clients messaging you for check-ins and that sort of stuff. You've also got to manage your own training, and then as well as a nursing environment and a medical environment. All these things are quite time consuming, and you're going to have to be thinking all the time. How do you manage, because obviously one of the big things that I'll chat about with my clients is time management and stress management, and actually having time to switch off. How have you found that? Because obviously, if you're going from a coaching environment to then a nursing environment, and you've got to look after your patients, but then, if people are asking you questions as well, how have you found that to sort of manage your stress and have some time to switch off?
I'm getting better at delegating, definitely. So I've set up the nutrition side of my business so that I have no correspondence with people whatsoever. So the inquiry button on my website goes to Ash's email, who is my nutrition girl, and I have nothing to do with that. So it's completely streamlined, and she's paid accordingly to manage the entire thing. And if that gets bigger, then she will manage the other nutrition coaches as well. So she doesn't know that yet. So, but yeah, and I think too, like whenever I want to start a new business, I've often had the problem that like every entrepreneur has, where like, okay, let's say I get paid $85 an hour for my face-to-face PT. For me to take 6 hours to research a business, to find out that it's not going to be viable and that I don't want to start it, it's very tempting to instead use those 6 hours to do something that's going to immediately make me money in the short term. I'll have it in my hand that day, rather than to use time now. It's an investment in potential future income. So in terms of doing that, and then it's just something I procrastinate from. I'm like, no, I want to work on my current business, not work on one that doesn't exist yet. So now I've just started hiring people to research the next business for me. And it might be a loss. I might end up paying them, an hourly rate for 6 hours to research something. They come back and I've lost that money, but now I know, and now I can go on to the next idea. So yeah, I think delegating is really important. And in nursing, every nurse will tell you it's so frustrating when you see a nurse like rushing around, super stressed. And you're like, I'm not busy. Can I do anything for you? And they're like, no, it's fine. And they're stressed. And it's like, all right, then I'm not helping you. Like, you deserve to be stressed because I've offered you help and you're being too proud to take it. Or, like I think it's actually a poor nursing skill. Like, it just puts you in more of a position to make a mistake, which could be life threatening. So yeah, I think like asking for help when you need it is just super important.
Yeah, I think one little comment that you said there, being too proud to sort of ask for help, and there'll be a couple of people that I coach that are maybe lawyers or own businesses or something like that, and actually, and you touched on it, once before, saying that there are bigger things to it, and it's like, look, ask for help, and it's like, look, I'm struggling writing my food down, right? Okay, so that's another stressor that we're gonna add in. You've got other things going on. Can you just take a photograph of what you're eating? I can't be in the gym for an hour or however long, right? Then just work around that. And I think from a client's point of view, that sometimes people struggle to just ask for help and just think, right, well, these are the things that we expect you as a coach, and then that's it. The thing, right, well, I need to juggle and manage all things. Do you use those examples, obviously, with you working as a nurse with the clients that you're working with, and do you find that they respond a little bit better to be able to manage their time a little bit more?
Yeah, I feel like, and I hope some of my clients will hear this, but I feel like they are constantly stressed that they don't want to bother me and ask me for things that they consider to be extra, but they're not. Like, it's all part of the service, like wanting to substitute something because it's giving you knee pain, or because you don't have the appropriate weights at home. If I've prescribed chest flies and you've only got 20-kilo dumbbells, like, they're going to be hard for a 60-kilo girl, And so, like, I don't know that stuff. I don't know every single increment of dumbbell they have. And I feel like they don't want to ask me that. And that's the stress for them. But the stress for me is that I feel like I'm not providing a full service during COVID, and they're paying for the full service. So I think that the communication needs to be better there. So every week in my check-ins, I used to kind of be like, hey, how was your week? How was training? Have you got vids for me? And now I feel like I'm saying, the way that I phrase it has changed. It's like, hey, how's your training? What can I do to make training better for you this week? Or, what can we change this week? What do you need from me this week? Because it is a more holistic approach, I guess, to just like, how's your squat, bench, deadlift?
I had it actually, just smiling to myself there. I sent a message to one of my clients, and I said, this was maybe week 3 of lockdown, or maybe week 4. Anyway, it was a couple of weeks into lockdown, and the message that I sent was, how's your week been so far? How have sessions been? Essentially, similar questions to what you asked. How's the rest of the week looking? And she literally replied back saying, my weeks have been the exact same. The rest of my week is looking the same, because it's not as though, that she could go to the gym or go out. And actually, from then, I've been thinking, yeah, actually, just asking those questions in an environment like this, because actually, when we started digging into it a little bit more, other things started creeping up a little bit, and exactly what you said there, that communication. It's like, right, well, actually, I'm struggling with this a little bit more, and I'm struggling with a little bit of motivation because I can't go out a little bit more. And it's interesting that the last couple of weeks, surprisingly, it's been quite sunny over in the UK, but this week it's been a little bit miserable, to be fair. So me saying, right, go out for a walk. If you're struggling with the routine of I'm not walking to or from work, right, well, it's a sunny morning, it's a sunny evening, go out for a walk, get your steps up. Whereas now, because it's not very nice, it's like, right, how else can we do that? So setting little daft challenges. I set a couple of people a challenge. Right, we're going to do a Turkish get up, but I want you to use the strangest thing that you can. So one guy just used his dog. He's got like a puppy, and he just used his dog, which yes, it's funny and it's laugh, but obviously, a Turkish get up is a good exercise as well. So yeah, I think that's a good point, that communication needs to be improved a little bit more in a time like this.
But I think it'll continue on afterwards. Like, I feel like in the past, people have been like, hey, I missed my squat day this week, I just didn't get to the gym. And I've kind of been like, it's cool, man, shit happens. And now I feel like I'll be like, well, what happened? Is there something on that day that you hate doing that made you procrastinate from the gym? Or is there too much volume? Were you too sore? Or does that session go for too long and you were like, I can't fit in 2 hours, I only have 1 hour? Or, and so maybe like these are things that I didn't really pay enough attention to before.
That I can, 100%. I think that at the back end of this, that, you know, from a coach's point of view, the actual service and the contact that, you know, you'll have with your clients is going to be a lot more. You know, I've said to sending out a couple of emails, and I've said, look, you know, if you need anything, just give me a shout. So rather than maybe, you know, having a Zoom chat or a WhatsApp video or something like that, maybe every couple of weeks. Some people I've had a chat with, you know, once a week, just to have a little bit of a check-in, because sometimes I think having a face to the coach and just knowing that someone's gonna be there. And I had a check-in with one client, and essentially it was just her venting. It was just, you know, she just needed to blow off a little bit of steam because her birthday was coming up, and obviously all the plans that she'd had, she wasn't able to do. You know, that she didn't have a balcony or a garden, so she's been training inside, or she had to go to the car park or something like that. So now, you know, looking back, it could have been that I could have picked up on some of the phrases that she's saying, to be like, right, if you need a vent, go out, just have a vent. Just you know, I'm there to listen as a coach, which I think is going to be a beneficial, you know, going forward. Touching on a couple of the other things, have you with the working as a, you know, a coach, and obviously in nursing, have you found what have you found to be the biggest differences or biggest challenges working in both? Because obviously there's principles and thoughts that you're going to have in regards to your own coaching, but then obviously within the medical environment there's going to be other thoughts and principles that you have to follow. Have they ever been any big differences?
I think that in nursing, you are forced to learn every single shift. Like, you're not just going to give a drug that you haven't heard of because it's probably fine. You know, you're going to look it up and learn what it is before you give it. And a doctor might prescribe a procedure that you've never done before. And guess what? You got to look it up before you do it. And you might have to ask another nurse and whatever. So you're forced to learn. But I think in coaching, you learn a bit from experience. But if you don't initiate your own like professional development, like, you could go months without learning anything new, and you could just be like repeating the same information to your clients, maybe forever. But I think you have to be motivated to go out of your way to seek out information. It would be very easy, I think, to just become complacent and just keep teaching the same 50 cues your entire career, and never adapt, you know. And like with nursing, things change all the time. A really good example is CPR. You know, like the way that we do CPR changes all the time. And so they come at us to teach us how, like, they push it in front of us, you know, like, hey, tomorrow, whether you like it or not, we're learning the new rules around CPR. And then, yeah, I think being self-employed in any industry is probably the same, but definitely in coaching, like, I'm not even working with other coaches. I'm in a studio that I own, that I'm only in there alone with. So if I don't go out of my way to learn other shit, then I never will.
Yeah. Do you find that, you know, that you find that you want to be learning different things when it comes to coaching and the nursing side of things? Because I know I've fallen into that trap before, that I'll spend a lot of time working on one specific area, which might be, you know, quite a lot more strength training, learning about. But actually, you know, one of the coaches that I work with works with quite a lot of sort of like sports athletes and runners and that sort of stuff. But there's actually, you know, areas that I've taken from the work that he does, which can actually benefit the work that I'm doing with my clients. Have you found that, you know, you actually dip your hand in different things to learn a little bit more?
Yeah, I think a little bit, but I think that I started off like super eager to learn and super like overwhelmed by what was out there, and like, oh my god, there's so much to know, and how do you know what's right and what's wrong, and how do you know which ones you want, like which methods you want to implement. And then I went through a phase where I was like, which is kind of where I am now, where I'm like, there's a lot to learn and I'll never know it all, and I'll never claim to be the best coach that there ever was. But fundamentally, it's easy. Like fundamentally, like if you work hard in the gym and you're using progressive overload, you're probably going to get stronger, and you're recovering well enough, you're probably going to get stronger. The things that I am interested in still continuing to learn about are things like just different programming method, so I'm not just always doing like a linear progression for every single client. And, you know, like I'm interested in learning that sort of thing. And then I'll use my experience to find what works for some people. Like I've done wave loading for some people where they've loved it. And I've done wave loading with like some chicks and they're like, I fucking hate this. Yeah. Like, this is horrible. Like, I don't want to change plates all the time. Like, I'm not motivated and my brain's confused. It doesn't know what to expect out of every set. And, you know, so it's hit and miss. Some of these things are hit and miss. They work in theory and then they don't work for everyone.
Yeah, I think that's interesting because, you know, you said there it just comes with experience and from the experience that you've had, and you know, sometimes that you're gonna some things that you're going to try aren't going to be very good, and I'll put that across with the clients that I work with as well. Be like, look, you know, let's try this, and you know, you want it to either maintain but definitely not drop down, and if it works, it's like, right, let's stick with this. On the because I just wanted to touch on it a little bit, because obviously I know we've spoken about the differences and strength training and powerlifting, and obviously the chat that we had beforehand, where you know you're working right within the environment of everything we've happening that with COVID-19. How are you finding that with working with the patients that you're working with at the minute?
Yeah, so it's really interesting because I'm seeing a lot on the news about how hospitals are just getting absolutely slammed and they can't keep up and whatever. And I understand that, like, a lot of that footage is from overseas and that other countries are hit way harder than Australia. Like, it's a massive difference. But even I'm hearing a lot about nurses in the media about how our hospitals are really busy. And I feel like I probably know, like, hundreds of nurses across pretty much every state, and everyone says that their hospital is an absolute ghost town. I've had like one friend that works in rural New South Wales, and she says that they're being slammed, but everyone else I'm talking to says that, like, they've got like hardly any patients on a night shift, that no one's coming in, and certainly the emergency department where I work is way quieter than I've ever seen any emergency department. And I think it comes down to, like I said, I'm casually employed and I'm struggling to get shifts, and I think it's because they shut down elective surgeries. So now there's less areas to distribute the same number of staff. So I'm getting less shifts because of that. But also where I work in emergency, probably, like, I'm picking a random number out of my butt here, but probably like 60% or 50% of the people in there don't need to be there. They could have gone to the doctor the next day when they opened at 9 o'clock and they would have been fine. And I think those people are too scared to come in. Like, they don't want to risk, like, if they stub their toe, like, it's not worth risking going in and catching COVID-19. So they're staying at home. So look, it's quieter in that sense, but some things are a lot more time consuming, like having to put on the people who, if you have any flu-like symptoms whatsoever, and I mean, like, you had a scratchy throat last week and you're in there with a swollen knee, then we treat you like you have COVID. And we put you in a COVID area, and to go into the room, if you press the buzzer, and I just have to turn it off, to go into the room to press that button, I have to do like goggles, mask, hairnet, apron, gloves, everything, just to go in there and press a button. So in that way, it's very inefficient. Like, it takes me a long time to nurse someone like that. And then someone has to stand at the door because I can't leave that area in that PPE. So someone has to stand at the door and pass me things the whole time. So yeah, it's a very inefficient way to nurse. But in terms of actual patient numbers, surely these are a record low for a long time.
Yeah, it's interesting because, you know, with the effects that it's had having to do with that, you don't think of the knock-on effects that, look, you know, you're going to be nursing, but then having someone there to pass you the things and everything like that. And some of the things that have been put out there of, you know, that in terms of trying to stay healthy and immunity and all those sort of things. Have you found that people are asking a little bit more about, oh, well, what if I eat, you know, more portions of veg? Will this make me feel a little bit better? What sort of your thoughts on that? Because there is that thing of, you know, if there's underlying health issues or anything like that. But yeah, obviously for someone that's working within it, what are your thoughts?
I think people are very resistive to that. I think they've always been very resistive to the concept that the way that you treat your body in general has such a big effect on your health. You know, people see things like a problem with their heart or their lungs or something. They see that as just like bad luck. And I think people refuse to take responsibility. Or maybe they're like me and they know what they should be eating and they just don't really want to do it. you know, like, and that's okay. It's a personal choice, you know. So like, they don't want to hear about it. They don't want to hear they should be doing this, they should be doing that, you know, because honestly, I feel like, and maybe this is an unpopular opinion, but I feel like everybody fucking knows how to be healthy. Like, if you went to primary school, then you were taught about like moderate exercise and fruit and veg, and you know that McDonald's is bad and water is good, and you know, and then as an adult, it's up to you whether or not you want to implement it. Yeah. So I don't think education's the issue.
Yeah, I think I think that's going to be another clip that I'm gonna play in the gym when the gym's open again, because I usually say the same to the clients that I work with, and sometimes it makes them laugh a little bit, because we're all adults, and exactly like you say, you know that there's foods that you should eat more of, and there's foods that you should eat less of, and it's a case of that you've got to make that decision. I'm not going to harp on. I know, obviously, we touched on it before about you working with someone who's going to take on your nutrition side of things, and yes, you can get specific with nutrition and that sort of stuff, but when it comes to actual just health and feeling good, people know what they should be doing, which is a really good point. I'm not going to say, right, well, what did you eat over the weekend? Well, I had 10 pints and 6 pizzas. Right, well, maybe let's not do that every day. As much as I like a beer and I like a pizza. If it doesn't make you feel good, then we want to not try and do that as much. Quite a lot of topics covered there, and some good pieces of advice. The most important question now for everyone listening: what would be your take-home points or words of wisdom from everything that we've chatted about today?
Probably that, like, there's no right or wrong way that you want to train. So if your coach can guide you in the right direction, but it's okay to say to your coach, like, I don't want to do that. I want to work on my glutes, or, I want cap delts or whatever. Your coach isn't there to judge you. And it's the same with your diet. I never had any kind of nutrition coach until now, because I was like, I don't want to report to someone once a week and tell them that I had McDonald's every single day. Like, I don't want to do that, but now I realize their job isn't to try and over time convert me to eating perfectly. Their job is to like help me manage my calories, and like, if a coach can help you change like one thing every 3 months about your diet, then over a few years you might be set up for like, very good long-term success. So yeah, I think like, you're an adult, you can make your own decisions, and don't worry about being judged by like health professionals, even like nurses, doctors, coaches like us, nutrition coaches. Those people aren't there to judge you, and you need to be honest with them. And if you feel judgment from them, then I would highly recommend leaving the service. Like, that's not what they're there to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good piece of advice to finish on. Whenever you're looking for a service, especially within health and fitness or medical, they're there to help you. They're not there to be like, oh, well, you've told me about this, so that makes you a bad person. I don't think that's it at all. One of the best pieces of advice I got given by a coach I used to work with is, if they're paying money to come and see you, you want to give them as much or all of your attention and knowledge as you can to best help them. It's not I completely agree. It's not there to be judging people and making them feel bad. Thanks a lot for taking the time to chat with me. I really enjoyed that, and I think there was quite a lot of good topics covered there. For everyone listening who might have any questions about anything that we've chatted about today, or want to have a look at the content that you're putting out there, or even get involved in some coaching with you, where can people find you?
My Instagram is @BikerBiddy. And same on Facebook. I do a little bit of YouTube and all that. I'm also on sugardaddy.com. Just kidding. So look me up, say hello, and thank you all for listening and for supporting what both of us do.
Awesome. 100%. Check out the content that Paige puts out there. Thanks a lot for taking the time to chat with me. Really, really appreciated it. Thanks a lot to everyone listening, and I will see you all next week.
All right. Thank you. Bye.